Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, 25th July. It's 8 o'clock London time. My name's Anil. We're going to do some market analysis on the charts. Just a reminder, this is for education purposes only and not intended as investment advice. Let's just make sure we run through the disclaimer very quickly. I do this every single time, so please take a moment to read this. Trading is risky. You need to know what you're doing. Take a moment to read it. A little bit about myself. Been trading a long time, futures, bonds, commodities, both algo trading and discretionary trading, develop my own algos, etc. So what are we going to do today? We're going to look at some charts. Any requests that you might have, please let me know and I'll have a look at those charts for you. We're also going to have a quick look at the Plus Zenfinex free tools. Free being the operative word. You know, there's no charge. We're not charging for anything here. Here's the domain that you need to go to, plus.zenfinex.com. Sign up for a free access to these tools. And the ones we're going to focus on today really are the technical views and featured ideas. These are just really areas within the portal that give you for education purposes, you know, trading signals, trading ideas, a look at how other market analysts and traders are looking at the markets. And as I said, it's free, so go to the portal and register. So let's get to the fun part, which is the charts. I'm going to look at mainly euro and gold, euro dollar and gold today. Been some movements on there. So as I do always, I'll strip the charts of everything so far. But what we can tell just before I get rid of them, you know, that we've been in this upward trend, which we've been plotting right through the whole of July. If you've been coming to these webinars, you've been seeing how we can be finding entries on the long side and marking up targets, which I did a few days ago, hit exactly the target here and hit some resistance. So let's just have a look from a top-down approach and try to get an idea of what's happening with gold. And of course, I should have looked at the news first. So let me just have a look at the news feature on. So this is the Plus Zenfinex portal. Got a number of different tools. I talked about it briefly. You know, there's let's just go back over to here. Some trade ideas, featured ideas, technical views. I won't spend too much time on these because I want to go back to gold. But before I do that, I just want to check to see if there's any news that's going to be impacting us today. As I do always, this should be your habit too. Always check the news first. So it's the 25th of July. And I've got listed medium and high. I'm just going to focus on the high one. So I uncheck the median impact news and just focus on the high news. So this afternoon at 3 o'clock London time, we got some manufacturing numbers and some consumer confidence numbers. And we can see here, you know, what the impact could be on these news announcements. And as I've gone through this many, many times, look at the previous videos, you know, it has a very cool feature on here where we can look at past news announcements and the impact it had on the euro dollar or other currencies. And we can look at, you know, the impact after the news, whether it's a short term after the news, 15 minutes after the news, what happened a bit later, 4 hours after the news. So it gives you an idea that, and if you can, you know, learn how to use this tool, it will be advantageous to you. So it will show from the previous report on June the 27th that the forecast was -8, actual was -7, and the impact 4 hours after the event. So we had a big plunge down immediately and then bounced off some levels here and then started going. And we can look at the euro and see what happened subsequently. We already know, don't we, that there was an upward trend. So clearly this was some flushing out some liquidity and then moving on in the upward direction. So in summary, nothing really to look at on the news apart from 3 o'clock. We've got some Euro news that may be interesting. The IFO business climate in Germany. Clearly, the number coming out of there will be important. They're forecasting a slightly weaker number. And if we just look at this as well, and we can see actual was weaker than forecast, and that after a short-term correction, we've seen the euro going up subsequently after that. So the euro strengthening. I mean, and one of my previous videos, I did talk about the dollar impact, that the dollar index broke through some important levels. I won't have time to look at it today, but do have a look at the dollar index and see how that's behaving. The reason why you want to look at the dollar index is because if you're trading euro against USD, it's useful to know what is happening to the dollar itself and the impact that would have on the euro. We'll spend some more time, on another webinar, and we'll talk specifically about the dollar index and its impact on dollar-related currencies and other currencies as well. So let's take a look, go back to the charts for a second and do a top-down approach on gold. So let's go to the high times frames first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of everything first, and we'll replot these and see if we can find some levels. And this level we found, really weeks ago, that once we broke out of this level here, it continued going up and would have been a really nice long trade here. But let's just get rid of all the lines and start marking down and seeing what has happened to the price of gold in recent days and how we may be able to utilize that in our own trading. So let me first of all get rid of everything and start again. And as I always re-emphasize, doing this exercise over and over again will really help your trading, because rather than being honed in, focused on a 5-minute chart or an hourly chart, you're stepping back to begin with and look to see if any levels could be important in your current trading ideas. So I'll just mark these lines in. So what I'm doing, I'm marking some support and resistance lines from the daily perspective. And we know this is a weekly level here, which I've marked on many, many videos before. Don't think they'll be impacting us today, but it's good to have them on there. And we can draw some levels here. And just to reiterate, what I'm trying to do is capture a level on my horizontal support here, which looks the most interesting. Some people go to the end of the wick, some people go to the body, but I just like to look for where price interacted with it the most times, right? So I'm going to kind of come down a little bit. And this is where I think, because look, markets closed above, closed above, closed above, closed above, closed above. So this could act as a nice level of support, obviously from a daily perspective. We're also going to look at and see if there are any other levels which might be interesting to us for our current trade ideas. So we can see here, and I'll move this down a little bit here, a little bit up. Why have I put it there? I put it there because we have resistance, try to break through, actually as resistance came down, plowed straight through it. Although it's a little bit messy here, it still found support here. And generally speaking, and in fact, I might even go a little bit further and say this, rather than it being a single line, I can see an area here, right? So this area here was acting a level of support. So we're seeing this level as being an area where prices may interact and give us some sort of ideas on the next direction. Clearly, we can see here, for the last 4, 5, 6 days, hit some resistance, which was established on previous days, which we'd marked up many, many days before, came exactly to it. And now we're looking to see, is this downward move? Let me magnify this a little bit. And again, we've got a few more people joining us. If you have any questions or charts you want me to look at, please do so, and I will endeavor to do so. So now we're still on the daily charts. We've marked up these levels here where price could interact. We've drawn this little region here. And in fact, I might just block that so we can see it slightly different and say, look, it's a slightly wider level of support here. So let's just put a oops, sorry, move that a little bit. Let's do it again. Object, square, and I'm going to mark off this area here rather than a single line, because what we're actually seeing is price bounced off here in the past, right? So this is actually in the previous days, it's acted as support, right? Particularly as it bounced off this other level that we'd actually marked in. So we're utilizing this level to see if indeed, are we in a downward trajectory, or is this now the beginning of an up move? So let's just do some analysis and try to figure that out. So we're still on the daily, and I'm now going to go to the 4-hourly to develop some more levels for me to keep an eye on. And from that, we'll see where we are with everything. So let's now draw the other tool that I use a lot of is the channel tool. Let's use this, sorry. And again, these channels have been working beautifully. And I use these as sort of levels of support and resistance, if you like. You know, once it comes to the top of the channel, I think I've marked out this level here in previous videos. And again, it retreated nicely from that, you know, nice sort of, you know, decent move basically. So on the 4-hourly chart, we can see here that this upward channel has been respected. It's broken out of it in the last few days, but it's trying to go back into it, which indicates to me that there is still strength in this move here. You know, for the last day or so, is now on the 4-hourly. Right, so let's now draw another channel. And see if this channel now is going to be respected, or we're looking for a breakout of this channel. So now we're narrowing into this area here. And we're trying to find out, or trying to determine what will happen next, or what our next trade idea will be. So let's just summarize, right? We've had a larger upward channel. We've broken out of this previous levels of support. Prices had hit a level of resistance. And if I mark that up a little bit more accurately here, because now on the 4-hourly, we're able to really define very precise levels. So look, it came up, came down, broke through, but closed below this 1984.55 level. And from that level, it's retreated, but it hasn't quite made it back into this level of support. And certainly, you know, after some moves, go back to the daily. You know, after hitting that level, it's retraced. Now we have to determine, is it going to come back and revisit this level before it continues its upward direction, or let's just zoom out a little bit and try to get some ideas, because now what we're trying to do is trying to figure out what the next move is going to be clearly, right? And the dialogue I'm having with you, by the way, is the dialogue that I have with myself when I'm doing my analysis. I look to see how prices interacted with this level here. Just 1 second. I think I just have to make sure my power lead is in. Just 1 second, please. I want to run out of power in the last, last bit when it gets interesting. So again, dialogue, right? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out what has happened and what is like to happen next. So the dialogue is resistance. Prices couldn't get above here. They came back down to this support here. This support, from a daily perspective, wasn't able to close above the 1939.79 level, right? Kept bouncing, 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 broke through it eventually, came down to another level of support, and then tried to make its way back up. But again, it hit the 1984.55 level and came down. So we're really at quite a crucial area here. The crucial area here, going back down to the 4-hourly, is this window here, right? So what we're now seeing is, from a 4-hourly perspective, we've got a level of support and we've got a level here. So this is now our trading window, right? So we looking to see, is it going to break above here and then revisit the resistance, or is this move just a pullback into a downward direction, right? Because we've come out of this channel, and often when price comes out of a channel, it'll come and retest it before it moves down. So right now we actually don't know, right? Because look, there's another level of resistance here. I don't want to start drawing too many lines, but I do want to point out key levels to you as I see them. Actually, that line looks a bit weak. Let me get rid of this and go ahead and draw a 4-hour resistance line here. Look, we're precisely at this level here. So we're precisely in this range, broke out of it, came and retested it, tried to go up, but broke down. Didn't come as far as this level of support, and we're seeing some weakness even here. So are we now saying to ourselves, and I'm now going to go to smaller timeframes in a second, but what we're looking to see is price going to go up and retest these levels here, or is it going to go down and find a level of support? So that's the question you as a trader need to ask yourself. What is going to happen next, right? And then we go down to probabilities. What is the probability of it going up? What is the probability of it going down? How much room do we have before it finds this old level of support? And is this a correction, or is this, going to break these levels of support? There's no way of really telling at the moment, right? But we can start now looking closely at these levels here. So now I'm going to go to a smaller time frame. I'm going to get rid of these arrows because they're of no real use. They're just really to highlight, obviously, the direction. So now I'm going to go down to a 1-hourly. And do remember, I'm not using any support, any moving averages or any oscillators. This is purely looking at support, resistance, channels, and then seeing how we can break out of this level here. So now, from an hourly perspective, right, markets came down because, again, the dialogue I'm having with you is the dialogue that I have with myself, right? So this is and a dialogue that you should be having yourself, because it's not just about, I think the market's going to go up, I think the market's going to go down. It's not as simple as that. You have to look at both sides of the equation. And what we see here, we're developing a range, right? And what we're now going to look at to see is price going to break out of this range and go upwards? First stop, or first target, I should say. I don't want to use the word stop, because from an hourly perspective, now we're starting to see that we have additional levels of resistance. So from a sort of a short-term perspective, right, the trade now is, so we're going to look for a breakout out of this region here, First target, it may retreat from here, but it may actually come back to here. And we can look at some price action here and see if there's anything in the price candles that tell us that are there reversal points? Are there any points where we can look at to see, we've already had this rapid move away back to this consolidation area here, and we're looking for a breakout. So the trade is really simple, right? If it breaks out to the upside, we're going to go long, but we want a retest. Everybody knows I don't take a breakout without a retest. I've said this on many, many other videos. And in terms of targets, let's just move this out of the way. First target, we'll be looking really to reach back into this level here, maybe just a little bit below. Look for the bodies, right? And then we can take some profits or partials around here. Let's draw a rectangle here. So this will be first partial. And, if you are looking for a much more longer term, and if your belief was that, let me just draw this in before I go on here, right? If your belief is that really this latest move on a short-term perspective coming out of this channel is really just to get rid of liquidity. What do I mean by liquidity? Right, clearly there's going to be some stops underneath this level here. So the guys or the traders that took this long, right, they've hit their level of resistance. The breakout traders would be sitting just above this level here. You can see this. They would have got tagged, taken to the wrong side, right? So they're looking for ways to get out. Will price come back and get them out? Well, it's pushed them and pushed them. And if you look at this precise level here, this whole price action would have got rid of a lot of traders who are thinking that this is going to continue coming down. Are there any questions about my logic, right? So I see that if price does continue to break on the downside, and I'm going to go to a smaller time frame just for a bit of fun. I don't usually trade anything less than an hour candlestick, but let's just see what's happening, because we're getting some price action happening right now as we speak. And we're looking to see if price will close below here, or is this another liquidity grab? What I mean by liquidity grab, there'll be lots of traders who are doing a similar kind of analysis, and they'll be putting their buys and sells above, these levels. And if I go down here, right, this might have been take the breakout traders onto the wrong side, get them stopped out before the continuation to the up move. So if we now look closely at what is happening right now, oops, let me just get really close to it now. And when I start looking at price when it gets to this kind of level, and I know a lot of people don't like open high-low closes, but I do, because you can actually watch to see how the candle or the open high-low close bar is behaving around this level of support. Let me put the cursor back on again, right? So here we're seeing that there would have been traders who wanted to go short back into this level of support, right? Taking a trade downwards. If you had been looking for a straightforward breakout by putting an order just here, you would now be tagged, and now you'd be underwater. So that's why I say it's important to wait for a retest. Look at all my old videos. I never take the breakout, I take the retest. And that sometimes retests can take a bit of time. So if I go back to candlesticks, we can see here, as soon as it went above this level here, came immediately down. Tried to push back up again, came down. And since that moment, it's really been coming downwards, right? That's kind of obvious. But look what it's done. You know, if you'd have taken a short based upon this, you know, would you have taken the target? Would your targets been down here? And that's why you have to play consolidation areas very carefully. And you know, this is not investment advice, but the way I trade is that I don't put orders waiting above levels of consolidation. I actually want to get a retest and to see, and I think I've drawn it more clearly here. Let me go back to the hourly. Right, so that's the kind of pattern I'm looking for. Breakout, moves away from the consolidation area, hits this level here, go to a smaller time frame, and then take, you know, the trade in the upward direction. But right now, gold is consolidation. These two wicks, if you like, are defining the upper boundary and the lower boundary. And you don't really want to get trapped inside these levels. So we need to see from a smaller time perspective, let's go back to the 15-minute time frame. We need to see a close above or below. No breakouts, you know, no putting limit orders, because you want to see. Now, sometimes what can happen when it does break out, it appears to just keep, you know, and you feel that you've missed it, but have confidence. More often than not, it will come back, retest you, and give you an opportunity with a tighter stop and a bigger target, basically. You know, risk to reward is something I'm going to talk about on another video, where we talk about, you know, how much are you risking and how much do you want to make? And there are mathematical probabilities that you need to understand, and why it's not a good idea just to sort of, you know, take a little bit and be happy with it, right? Because you might have got lucky on that situation. What you need to do is develop a methodology, a strategy that has a decent risk to reward. Minimum 2 to 1, but it should be 3 to 1. And I'll do another presentation about how those, you know, mathematics work out, how many times you have to be right, how many times you have to be wrong with a 3 to 1 ratio. And it will surprise you, so stay tuned for that. I'll do a whole video on that. So where are we on gold right now? We're trapped in this consolidation. How did we find this consolidation? We went all the way from a down, you know, from a daily perspective, all the way down to a 15-minute. And from that, we're able to draw levels of support and resistance and looking for an area of breakout. Does anybody have any questions, please? Because I know I've been sort of continuously speaking, but does anybody have any questions? If not, we can move on to the euro, because I want to have a look at the euro as well. That had quite an interesting move yesterday as well. And as I say, I haven't made my mind up whether it's going to go up or down, because we're in a consolidation zone. I need to see a close, retest, and then I can start looking at where I'm going to put my stops and targets. And the targets are easily defined because we just marked them out. So this is the strategy. It's a simple support, resistance, channels, breakouts of consolidation areas, looking for support and resistance for target levels. No fancy names, no fancy anything. This is just it, basically. And this is really a culmination of years of trying all different types of strategies in my early career, and finding that the best thing to do is look for turning points as either stops, targets, or entry points. And in this case, we're consolidating. We're in no rush to take a breakout. It's created a slightly bigger consolidation area here, but I'm not going to count those, because a majority of the action, if I just go, I'll try to explain what I mean by that. You know, if you look at the bodies, right, we're getting these spikes, but everything closes within this particular consolidation range. And that's what you've really got to be looking at to see, for true breakouts, because these spikes are really there to fool the breakout traders and get them on the wrong side, basically. I'm sure many of you, and by the way, I've done it myself in the past, don't do it anymore because it doesn't work, is just put a pending order above and below the consolidation zones. And that's just going to get you in and taken for a ride to the wrong side. Right, I'm going to just watch this for a little bit because a new 15-minute candle has just started, and I really want to see. Clearly, there will be no direction until we break out of it, because what it will do, it'll keep bouncing up and down, up and down. We had this previous level of resistance or support, and we're literally at 1961, 55, 59, just hanging around, trying to determine, or the market, or the value of gold in this instance, from a shorter term perspective, is trying to figure out whether it wants to go above or below. If there's no more questions, I'll leave this. I may come back to it, but I'm going to do a similar approach for the euro dollar. I've been asked to do the euro dollar a couple of times. And again, look at my markups on my previous charts where we've talked about how price breaks out of these channels, hits levels of support and resistance, has breakouts, right? Breakouts, retests, big, large moves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all the lines. In fact, I might just create a new chart with no lines. That way we can come back to these at some other time. So here, let's get rid of this for a second. And we're going to do the same thing. We'll start from a weekly perspective. And start marking up the important levels. Just move this down here. Remember, weekly, so we're not looking for them to be too far away because the chance of getting there are going to be quite remote. We're now plotting out our trading window. We'll go to the daily, because these levels can be important if we're looking for targets, particularly the weeklies, right? So from a daily perspective, we've clearly got a level of support resistance here. If I just go back a little bit further, let's see if it's interacting with anything else in the past, just to give us more validity and strength to the idea that this is indeed a level that we need to be looking at. So we can see here, prices interacted here, messed around here. So let's now magnify that. So I'm okay with this level here. We have another daily level here. Look left and see if in the past, what type of behavior was around this price here. And I can probably just move this up a little bit because, and the reasoning for that, the rationale for that, simple. Interaction here, interaction here, interaction, interaction, interaction. So I want to leave this line in here. Is there another one here? Again, we look left to see how prices interacted within past. And the reason for this is because they may act as levels for targets or stops, basically. So we've got another one here, a recent high here, poke through, came back down, and can now start going to the 4-hourly and start to see if there's anything that can help us with direction. Let me just go back to the daily for a second and make sure there's no important channels, which there clearly is. So let's put the channel in as well. right? So we're up and downing on this channel, and where the bottom of the channel and this level interacted, obviously it's staying within this channel here, came to the middle of the channel and decided to go up, hit the top of the channel and came back down. So now we're looking to see if there are any levels from a 4-hourly perspective that we need to be aware of. So we can see here, and really it's a choice between this one and this one. I think I prefer this one here because look, interacted, broke through, didn't quite come and retest it before it started moving its journey up, hit some consolidation levels there, came back down and hit this level of support. So we're actually at a level where markets kind of decide where they want to go. So we can now go to a daily perspective, a hourly perspective. I hope you find these this method of looking for direction, looking for trade ideas, looking for stops and targets helpful. So we can see here, not a particularly good channel, but I'll take it. And remember, the channel is there really to give me some boundaries, some frames. Even these support and level resistance are boundaries. So we're now stuck in this little area here. Now we can go down to a bit of a closer view. Right, so we can see here from an hourly, this level is going to be important. So if we are looking for trades, we can see where we'll be looking to target from any entries that we might have. So what is happening right now? Let's have a conversation about what is price doing. So prices now are creating a level of consolidation, a slightly bigger consolidation here, but I'm going to focus in the one for the last few hours. Let's put that level in. We've got an area which we need to be careful of down here. So any shorts, we've got some areas that we have to break here first before we can be confident that it could come all the way down to this level here. So right now it's trying to determine these levels. So let's just put another level here. And so these levels are starting to be our targets for any breakouts out of this consolidation area. So let's go to a smaller time frame, 15 minutes, and start looking a bit more, because from a higher perspective, we're mapping out our targets. And let's have a look at this area here. So this is the consolidated, bouncing off these levels here, right? But finding some difficulty getting past these levels here, right? So we can see now that indeed this is the consolidation area here. And we'll be looking for a breakout, either, I'll just move this up a little bit, from the top of here or the top of here. If it's to the top of here, here's our first target. And here's our second target. And we'll be looking for a stop, below these. So I don't want to go into specific entries, stops and targets too much, because again, this is for educational purposes only, and I don't really want to get too deep into trade ideas or suggestions. So let's just watch this price action for a bit. Very similar to gold, we're trapped in this consolidation area from an hourly perspective for the last few hours, right? So what's happened is prices found a level here. They broke out, but couldn't get above these levels here. So really we're trapped in this area here, looking for a breakout. And if it breaks on the upside, remember the retest rule, let it go out, come back in, and then take a first target here. And then we've got some other higher targets we can aim for if we're able to get a good entry. And although we're in a downward channel, we're at the bottom of the channel. So when we get to the bottom of the channel, it's more likely to go up than down. But because we are consolidating, it's very difficult to tell whether we're going to have a breakout on the downside, because we can see here, even from a 4-hourly perspective, once it hit this level of resistance, it's really been coming down. And is it going to come and revisit some of these areas here? So on the downside, if we can break this level here, right? So if we do get a short entry, then we've got these areas that we can target. Get rid of that. And if it's on the upside, here's our target here. And if this is now finding a level of consolidation, I'm not convinced of it just yet. This whole move down really may be just to capture some of this fast move here. So if that's the case, we're looking at some areas here in the middle of this as potential bouncing points to continue going up, but not clear at the moment. Right, I think I've hit my 42 minutes. I haven't had a chance to go to look at the other tools, but we've really been focused on looking at gold and looking at the euro dollar, and just trying to give you ideas on how to map out your trading ideas. I know a lot of people use a lot of different techniques with indicators and oscillators and what have you, but I find this to be the most consistent way for me anyway. Okay, if there are any questions, I'll give you a few seconds to type up a question. If not, I'll call it a day, and then I'll see you on Thursday. On Thursday, we can see how these breakouts behaved in the subsequent period. Looks like there are no more questions. I hope you found this useful. It's the same thing in terms of strategy, which is higher time support resistance levels, look for channels, look for consolidation areas, and look for breakouts in those consolidation areas. And practice, do some back testing, and see if there's any questions that you need to ask me. Always happy to help. On that note, see you Thursday. Thanks.